Have you ever wondered why some people are drawn to you so strongly, almost as if something in them recognizes something in you before a single word is spoken? It might be tempting to believe it's about your looks, your charisma, or your energy. But the truth, according to the brilliant psychologist Carl Jung, is much deeper. He believed love is never random. Attraction doesn't happen by accident. It's guided by unconscious forces that we barely understand, pulling people together for reasons rooted far beneath the surface. Jung suggested that love is often not about the other person at all. It's about what they awaken inside us. When someone falls for you, they're not just falling for you, they're falling for what your presence represents in their inner world. In this video, we'll explore the unseen architecture of attraction through Jung's profound insights on projection, the anima and animus, and the two core reasons why someone may fall deeply in love with you. What you're about to discover goes far beyond personality traits or first impressions. This is about the secret language of the unconscious mind. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to The Selves. We explore the hidden forces that shape our thoughts, relationships, and inner lives, and bring you content that both challenges and awakens. Now, let's begin. Most people think love begins with a spark, an accidental meeting, a powerful look, a shared laugh. But Jung saw through the surface. Even in the most unexpected moments of connection, there is a hidden structure behind the scenes. A psychological script that draws us towards specific types of people, even if we don't realize why. At the center of this hidden dynamic is something Jung called projection. Every one of us carries within a set of unexpressed emotions, disowned traits, and repressed desires. These inner fragments are not lost forever. They're stored deep in the unconscious, and they're constantly searching for a way back to the surface. One of the most common ways they reappear is through the people we are drawn to. When you meet someone who embodies those unacknowledged parts of yourself, your hidden fire, your neglected softness, your untapped confidence, you feel an almost magnetic pull. That attraction can feel sudden, intense, and irrational. But what you're experiencing is not just about them, it's about you. This brings us to the first reason why someone might fall in love with you, even before they fully understand who you are. Because you represent a piece of them they've forgotten, ignored, or never allowed themselves to become. Imagine someone who has spent their life being careful, quiet, and emotionally guarded. When they encounter someone vibrant, fearless, and emotionally expressive, they might feel captivated. But what they're really reacting to is the part of themselves that longs to be expressed, and that you, simply by being yourself, have brought to the surface. You become more than a person in their eyes. You become a symbol, a reminder, a mirror of the part of them that wants to be awakened. That kind of attraction can feel intense, but it's also fragile, because it's built not on who you are, but on what they need you to be. And that's where projection becomes dangerous. Eventually, reality returns. The version of you they created in their mind begins to crack. Your real self, with your contradictions, your boundaries, your humanness, steps forward. And if the other person hasn't done the inner work to recognize that what they loved in you is something they must also cultivate in themselves, the connection can collapse under the weight of disillusionment. It's not your fault, but it is part of a greater pattern, one that Jung saw playing out in countless relationships. We often believe we're in control of who we fall for. That love is a choice, or at the very least a feeling that comes from shared values, chemistry, or timing. But according to Carl Jung, something far deeper is happening. He believed that when we fall in love, We're not just meeting another person, we're coming face to face with an internal archetype. And that brings us to the second profound reason why people fall in love with you. Because you embody a powerful, inner image they've been unconsciously carrying for years. Jung called this the anima and the animus, two universal psychological figures that live in the unconscious mind of every person. The anima is the inner feminine image in a man's psyche. The animus is the inner masculine image in a woman's psyche. These are not based on gender stereotypes. They are symbolic energies, shaped by early relationships, family patterns, and collective cultural imagery. And they have immense emotional power. Jung believed that each of us carries a psychological blueprint of the other. This inner figure, whether anima or animus, develops throughout life, influenced by our earliest impressions of masculinity and femininity, especially through parental figures. And then one day, seemingly by coincidence, we meet someone who activates that blueprint. They may not look exactly like the person you imagined. They may not have the qualities you consciously list as ideal. But they radiate something that resonates deeply, something you can't explain with logic. You feel as though you've met them before, as if time bends around them, as if this connection was always meant to happen. But what's really happening isn't magic. It's psychological recognition. That person mirrors the inner image you've been carrying all along, not a memory but a symbol. They reflect back to you an essential energy your unconscious has long been waiting to meet in the outer world. This is why certain people feel like home the moment you meet them. It's why you may feel an instant emotional flood, even when you barely know them. And it's why love, when influenced by these inner figures, can feel overwhelming, irrational, even spiritual. But Jung warned, be careful. Because when someone projects their inner anima or animus onto you, they aren't really seeing you. They're seeing a sacred psychological image that lives within themselves. This is where love becomes complicated. Because while it's beautiful, to awaken something powerful in someone, it's also a burden. If they're falling for an image, rather than your real human self, you may feel adored, but not truly known. They'll see you as mysterious, perfect, transcendent. But the moment you show your vulnerability, your contradictions, your imperfections, the illusion begins to fracture. The psychological high of projection fades, confusion sets in, conflict may emerge. Why? Because no human being can live up to an archetype. Eventually, your reality will disrupt their internal fantasy. That's why relationships based on anima or animus projections often start intensely, but then unravel with just as much force. What was once euphoric becomes exhausting. The person who once felt divine now feels distant or even threatening, not because they've changed, but because the fantasy is breaking. And yet, Jung didn't see this collapse as a failure. On the contrary, it's necessary. The moment the illusion ends is the moment the real relationship can begin, but only if both people are willing to let go of projection and truly meet. So what happens after the projection fades, when the idealized version of you begins to dissolve, when the fantasy crumbles under the weight of reality, and all that's left is two people standing face to face, not as symbols, but as flawed, complex human beings. This is the turning point. For Jung, love was never meant to keep us comfortable. Its purpose is not to make us feel safe or validated indefinitely. It's to wake us up, to expose what is hidden, to reflect what we've neglected, and to stretch us toward growth. In Jung's words, love becomes a problem only when we fall in love not with a person, but with an image. And yet, He didn't condemn this process, he believed it was necessary. Projection, despite being an illusion, is the spark that starts the fire. It brings people together. It activates long-forgotten pieces of the soul. It shakes us from our psychological sleep. But once the projection fades, we're left with a choice. Do we turn away, disappointed that the dream didn't last? Or do we lean in and begin the real journey? This is where the deeper meaning of love reveals itself. Every person who has ever entered your life with emotional force, whether through romance, heartbreak, or sudden connection, was never just a coincidence. They were a psychological mirror. Some reflect your hidden potential. Some expose your deepest insecurities. Some reawaken your creativity. Others confront you with wounds you thought had healed. But all of them serve the same sacred function: to move you further along the path of becoming whole. This is what Jung called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your truest self. And love, especially when it shakes you, is part of that process. When someone falls in love with you, it's often not about your resume, your habits, or even your words. It's about the emotional awakening you stir within them. You become a psychological catalyst, an unexpected symbol that calls something to the surface. And the same goes for you. The people you've fallen for, the ones who changed you, hurt you, challenged you, were never random. They were archetypal messengers. Whether you realized it or not, they carried with them a lesson, an activation, a key. Some came to reflect what you were missing. Others came to disrupt patterns you were trapped in. And some came to hold up a mirror so precise you could no longer lie to yourself. Here's where things get even more important. If you don't become conscious of your projections, of the internal images you're projecting onto others, you'll keep repeating the same relationships over and over again. Different faces, same emotional script. You might think you're just unlucky in love, but the truth is, your unconscious is trying to teach you something you're still refusing to learn. You'll keep being drawn to people who carry the traits you've disowned. You'll keep idealizing them, getting hurt when they don't match the fantasy, and feeling confused when the connection ends. Jung's solution to this isn't to stop loving, it's to start loving consciously. Once you recognize your own patterns, once you see the inner figures you've projected onto others, you can stop expecting someone else to complete you. And you can begin to reclaim what was yours all along. When you start integrating your anima or animus, when you stop searching for your missing parts in someone else, you become more whole. You're no longer pulled by unconscious need. You're no longer falling for symbols. You're meeting people as they are, and letting yourself be seen in return. That's where a new kind of love becomes possible. It's no longer euphoric in the chaotic way. It doesn't burn you out or leave you empty. It's grounded, liberating, real. It's not love built on fantasy, it's love built on truth. And this kind of love doesn't need to be perfect. It allows space for both people to grow, to evolve, to be flawed, and still remain connected. Because it's not about filling a void, it's about walking together as two individuals who have learned to stand on their own. This is the love Jung trusted in, not the one built on blind projection, but the one that begins after the projection ends. So why do people fall in love with you? Because you either represent something they're missing, or because you awaken a powerful inner image they've been carrying all along. In both cases, the love they feel is real. But it's not really about you. It's about what you activate inside them, and the same is true for you. The love you feel for others is not just about them. It's about what they stir in your unconscious, what they awaken in your soul. If you want to break free from toxic cycles, if you want to experience love that actually heals instead of hurts, you must become aware of these inner forces. Because once you do, you stop searching outside, and you begin completing yourself from within. And from that place of wholeness, love is no longer something you fall into. It becomes something you choose, something you build, something you live. After all the intensity, the longing, the heartbreaks, and the awakenings, what remains? When the projections dissolve, when the soul lessons are integrated, what does love become? For Jung, love was never the end goal. It was the initiation. Every person you've loved was not just a character in your story. They were a summons from your unconscious, a call to evolve, a signal that there was something within you longing to be known, expressed, or healed. And once you begin to answer that call, once you stop expecting others to deliver what only your soul can offer, you begin to step into a different kind of life. A deeper, more rooted existence where love no longer intoxicates or destroys, but instead supports, reflects, and refines. Because love, true love, is not the opposite of pain. It's the integration of light and shadow. It's the willingness to face another person as they are without illusions. And even more importantly, it's the willingness to face yourself. You may have heard the term soulmate used to describe that perfect, once-in-a-lifetime kind of connection. But Jung would offer a different interpretation. The people we call soulmates are not perfect matches. They are perfect mirrors. They reflect our deepest truths, often in the most uncomfortable ways. Some arrive like a storm. Some slip in quietly and change everything. Some stay, others don't. But all of them are sacred. Not because of what they gave you, but because of what they showed you. Maybe they showed you your capacity to love more deeply than you thought possible. Maybe they showed you how easily you abandon yourself in the name of connection. Maybe they shattered your illusions, forcing you to rebuild on stronger ground. Maybe they taught you boundaries, or softness, or self-worth, or forgiveness. Each one played a role in your individuation. The slow, sacred journey of becoming whole. Jung believed that the true goal of love is not to merge with another, but to unite with the lost parts of yourself. The animus and anima aren't just projections, they're invitations. The partners who trigger us aren't problems, they're messengers. And the heartbreaks we fear are often the portals we need to walk through, because in the end, you are not here to be completed by another. You are here to remember that you are already complete. And once you begin to live from that place of inner union, where the masculine and feminine within you are no longer at war, but working together, you stop needing love to save you. You let love meet you. And in that space, love stops being a high. It becomes a rhythm, a shared reality, a conscious choice made daily, not from lack, but from wholeness. All the pain, all the searching, all the confusion, it was never wasted. Every experience prepared you to return to yourself, not to stay isolated, but to reconnect with others in a way that's finally real. So if you've ever felt broken by love, betrayed by love, confused by love, you weren't being punished. You were being refined. You were being called back to your center. And now, with this awareness, you can move differently. You can love differently. You can choose someone not because they fill a void, but because they reflect a presence. Not because they distract you from yourself, but because they help you stay anchored in who you are. That is the gift of conscious love. And it begins the moment you stop chasing mirrors and start becoming one. If this reflection spoke to something inside you, leave a comment and share what love has taught you about yourself. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more deep soulful content on psychology, relationships, and the unconscious mind. This isn't just a channel, it's a journey back to who you really are.